My name is Clarissa Minda. I'm 34 years old, and I flew 19 hours to attend my younger sister Maribel's wedding. I had my invitation folded inside my purse, my passport still warm from being checked too many times, and a small silver-wrapped gift tucked under my arm. I remember smoothing the front of my dress before I walked toward the entrance, because even after everything, I wanted to look like someone who belonged there. My mother saw me first. Evelyn Minda stepped away from the floral arch at the venue doors like she had been waiting for me. My father, Renato, followed a second later. He didn't smile. He didn't reach for my suitcase. He didn't ask if the flight had been terrible or if I had eaten anything since landing. They just stood in front of me. Behind them, I could hear music, soft laughter, glassware, people greeting each other. The kind of sound that makes you feel like life is happening just a few feet away from you, but the door has somehow closed. I lifted the invitation slightly, because I thought maybe there had been confusion at check-in. My mother looked at it like it embarrassed her. Then my father said the words I still heard 3 days later. "You're not invited." For a second, I honestly thought I had misheard him, not because the words were unclear, but because my brain refused to let them make sense. I had crossed continents. I had rearranged work schedules. I had bought a dress Maribel approved of. I had carried that invitation through 3 airports like it was proof of something. My mother's face stayed calm, almost polished. "Only family belongs here," she said. "Leave." That was the moment something in me went very still. Not loud, not dramatic, just still. I looked past them once, toward the warm lights and white flowers and the life I had helped hold together more times than anyone in that room would ever know. Then I turned around. And I left. 3 days later, my phone rang while I was sitting alone in a hotel room, staring at the same invitation on the desk. It was my mother. Her voice was different then, smaller, urgent. "The bill is $41,000, she said, like the number itself should make me stand up and start fixing things. "Clarissa, we need you." And what I answered next left her completely speechless. Before I tell you what I said, if you've ever been treated like the problem for finally protecting yourself, or if you know what it feels like to be useful to people who never truly value you, stay with me. Drop your city and local time below, because I always like seeing where these stories reach. Subscribe if stories like this speak to you. Tap like if you're already on the side of someone who stayed quiet for too long, and turn on the notification bell so you don't miss the next one. Around here, silence is not weakness. Sometimes it is the moment before the truth finally arrives. Now let me take you back. At the time, I was living overseas and working as a senior logistics coordinator for an international medical supply company. That title sounds cleaner than the job felt. Most days were schedules, shipment delays, supplier mistakes, customs paperwork, temperature-controlled storage, and calls from people who expected me to solve problems before anyone else noticed they existed. I was good at it. Not because I was fearless, but because I had been trained by my family long before any company hired me. In my family, I was the one who handled things. If a bill needed explaining, they called me. If paperwork had to be submitted, they sent it to me. If my parents were confused about insurance, bank transfers, airline bookings, or medical appointments, I became the calm voice on the phone. Maribel, my younger sister, had a different place in the family. She was the one everyone protected from stress. If she cried, everyone moved. If she wanted something, my mother found a way to make it sound reasonable. If I questioned it, I was reminded that Maribel was sensitive, that I was stronger, that I had always been more practical. Strong became a word people used when they wanted permission to lean on me. I had sent money home more times than I liked to count. Not huge amounts every time, but enough. A hospital copay here, a loan payment there, a last-minute repair, a family emergency that somehow always arrived with my name attached to the solution. My parents rarely called it help. They called it remembering where I came from. So when Maribel got engaged, I already knew the wedding would become more than a wedding. It would become a family performance. My mother talked about it like the entire neighborhood would be judging our bloodline through centerpieces and catering trays. My father acted quiet, but I could hear the pride underneath whenever he mentioned the guest list. For a while, I let myself be happy for Marable. I really did. Then the messages started coming more often. First, it was questions about vendor deposits, then hotel blocks, then whether international transfers cleared faster through my bank. My mother would call late at night for me, early morning for her, and somehow the conversation always circled back to what I could arrange. Still, when the invitation arrived in my mailbox, I held it longer than I should have. It was thick cream paper, the kind Marable would have chosen after comparing 10 samples. My name was written properly. Clarissa Minda, not 8 Clarissa, not the one overseas, not the family fixer. Inside, tucked beneath the printed details, my mother had written a note in blue ink. Family table, seat 7. I read it twice, then a third time. It embarrassed me how much those 4 words affected me. I was 34 years old, living on my own, paying my own rent, managing crises for a living. But standing in my little apartment kitchen with that invitation in my hands, I felt like some younger version of myself had finally been handed a place card. Maybe they wanted me there. Maybe this time, I would not just be useful. Maybe this time, I would belong. I placed the invitation beside my passport on the counter and started looking at flights. The cheapest route was awful. 19 hours, 2 layovers, bad timing, and a connection that left almost no room for delays. I booked it anyway. And while part of me felt foolish for hopping, another part whispered that maybe a wedding could soften people. Maybe distance had changed things. Maybe all the strange questions about money and seating and schedules were just stress. But even then, sitting in the quiet glow of my laptop, I noticed something I tried not to name. My mother had asked 3 times about my credit card limit. Marable still had not confirmed the reception schedule. And when I asked in the family group, chat whether seat 7 was near Mom and Dad, no one answered for almost an entire day. The invitation still sat there on the counter. Beautiful, official, reassuring. But for the first time, I wondered why something that was supposed to make me feel included had begun to feel like a warning. The warning did not stop me from answering the next call. That was the part I still have trouble admitting. My instincts were already uncomfortable, but when my mother's name appeared on my phone, I still picked up. I still softened my voice. I still became the person who made things easier. At first, it was ordinary wedding stress. The florist needed a deposit date confirmed. The hotel block had the wrong number of rooms. One of the catering invoices had a service charge my parents didn't understand. My mother forwarded everything to me with short messages like, "Can you check this?" Or "You understand these things better." And I did check. I checked during lunch breaks. I checked after long shifts. I checked while my own laundry sat unfolded on the chair beside my bed. I sent polite emails to vendors, converted time zones, tracked payment deadlines, and explained which amounts were deposits and which were balances. Every time I solved something, my mother became warm. "There, see," she would say, "that's why I trust you." It should have felt good. Instead, after a while, it started to feel like a door that only opened when I was carrying something. Marable was different during those weeks. She sent photos of flower samples, table settings, bridesmaid robes, welcome signs, champagne walls. Everything had to look effortless, which apparently required an incredible amount of effort from everyone else. One night, she sent me a picture of a floral installation that looked like white roses spilling from the ceiling. I thought it was just inspiration. Then my mother called the next morning and said Marable had her heart set on it. I remember staring at the vendor quote on my laptop, still half awake, wondering when inspiration had become an invoice. After that came the photography upgrade, then the extended open bar, then extra guests from my father's side of the family because excluding them would look bad. Then welcome bags for out-of-town guests, even though most of them lived only a few hours away. I tried to be careful when I asked about the budget. My mother sighed, like I had embarrassed her. "Clarissa, it is your sister's wedding. This is not the time to count every coin. But someone had to count them. That was the strange thing. Everyone wanted the beauty, the celebration, the appearance of abundance. But when numbers had to be organized into something real, they came to me. I had already sent money once. It was supposed to be simple. A contribution toward the venue deposit, because Maribel had cried over the phone and said they might lose the date. I told myself it was a gift. I told myself it was my way of being supportive from far away. I was clear about it too. One payment. A wedding gift in advance, not a promise to keep paying. For about a week, everyone treated me like I had done something kind. Then the next shortfall appeared. This time it was not presented as a request. It was presented like a problem that had already been assigned to me. My mother said the vendor needed confirmation soon. My father said weddings were expensive, but family pulled together. Maribel said she didn't know why I was acting tense when I knew how much this meant to her. That was when the word jealous first appeared. Not shouted, not dramatic, just slipped into the conversation like a little hook. Maribel said she knew. It must be hard watching her get married when I was still single. I remember sitting, very still, with the phone against my ear. I was not jealous of her wedding. I was tired of being asked to fund a celebration I was barely being informed about. But I didn't say it that way. I said I needed to understand what I was being asked to pay for. The silence after that was colder than an argument. My mother finally said, "You always make things sound like business." I almost laughed, not because it was funny, but because she had sent me contracts, invoices, bank details, and vendor forms for weeks. They wanted business from me until business protected me. After that, the warning signs became harder to ignore. A catering coordinator emailed me directly and thanked me for being the family contact for remaining balances. I read that sentence 3 times before replying. Remaining balances, not questions, not scheduling, balances. Another vendor sent a payment portal link where my old card information was still partly visible from the deposit I had covered. Only the last 4 digits showed, but I knew them immediately. I forwarded the email to my mother and asked why my card was still connected. She answered 2 hours later with a heart emoji and said she would look into it. She did not look into it. Or if she did, she never told me. That same week, Maribel posted a short video online from a bridal fitting. She was laughing with my mother and 2 cousins. There were champagne glasses and a caption about being surrounded by the women who had loved her through everything. I watched it once. Then I put my phone down. It was not that I expected to be in the video. I lived far away. I understood that. But there was something about seeing everyone celebrate the soft parts while my inbox held the stressful parts that made my chest feel heavy. I was useful in private, invisible in public. Still, the invitation remained on my counter. Family table, seat 7. Whenever I felt myself getting angry, I looked at that note and told myself not to assume the worst. Maybe they were stressed. Maybe Maribel was overwhelmed. Maybe my mother's pride made her awkward with gratitude. I had built entire bridges out of maybes. But when I asked again about the seating, the answers became strange. My mother said the planner was still adjusting things. Maribel said not to worry about tiny details. My father said my mother had it handled. No one said, "Yes, your seat is there." No one said, "We're excited to see you." Then my mother called one afternoon while I was at work, and before asking about my flight, before asking what day I landed, before asking if I needed anyone to pick me up, she asked whether my credit card allowed international charges without delay. I remember looking across my desk at a shipment report I had been reviewing, a delayed container, a missing signature, a problem with a solution. That was how they saw me too. A problem solver with a credit limit. I told her I was not comfortable putting more wedding charges on my card. Her voice changed immediately. Not angry, worse, disappointed. She said, "We thought you wanted to be part of this family." There it was again. Family as a reward. Family as a test. Family as something I could lose if I did not pay the right amount at the right time. For the first time, I did not apologize right away. I just sat there, listening to the faint office noise around me, and let her disappointment exist without rushing to fix it. She ended the call quickly after that. That night, I opened my suitcase and started packing anyway. I folded the dress Marable had approved. I placed the silver-wrapped gift between layers of clothing so it would not get crushed. I printed my flight details, even though everything was already on my phone. Then I picked up the invitation again. The cream paper still looked expensive. The blue ink still looked like my mother's hand. Seat 7 still sat there like a promise. But it no longer felt simple. It felt like a door I had been invited to approach without knowing whether someone planned to open it. I put the invitation beside my passport in the front pocket of my bag. And as I zipped the suitcase closed, I had the strange, quiet feeling that I was not just packing for a wedding. I was packing for an answer. I didn't sleep much after that. The suitcase stayed by the door, zipped and ready, but I kept walking past it like it belonged to someone else. Every time I saw the invitation tucked into the front pocket, I felt that same pull in two directions. Go, because you were invited. Check, because something is wrong. By midnight, the second voice finally became louder. I opened my laptop and went back through every wedding email I had touched. Not all at once, slowly, like I was afraid of what I would find if I moved too quickly. The catering email was first, family contact for remaining balances, then the venue thread, then the florist, then the photography studio. My name kept appearing in places where I had never agreed to be more than a point of contact. At first, I tried to explain it away. Maybe vendors used careless wording. Maybe my mother had misunderstood. Maybe because I had paid one deposit, they had assumed I was helping manage the rest. Then I saw a line in one message from the venue coordinator. Thank you for confirming Clarissa Minda as the backup payment contact. I remember my hand going cold on the mouse. Backup payment contact. Not sister, not guest, not helper. Payment contact. I sat there for a long minute, staring at the screen while the apartment hummed quietly around me. Outside my window, traffic moved through the wet streets. Somewhere downstairs, someone closed a door. Normal sounds, ordinary life. But inside me, something had shifted. I did not call my mother. That was the first important choice I made. Before, I would have called immediately. I would have asked what happened, listened to her sigh, accepted some half-answer, and then somehow ended up apologizing for sounding suspicious. This time, I opened a blank folder on my desktop and named it Wedding Records. Then I started saving everything. Emails, receipts, screenshots, bank confirmations. The message where I had said my contribution was a gift in advance. The payment portal showing the old card. The unanswered question about seat 7. The next morning, before work, I called the venue directly. My voice sounded calmer than I felt. I told the coordinator I wanted to clarify my role in writing. I explained that I was not a host, not a guarantor, and not responsible for any final balance unless I personally signed a new authorization. There was a pause on the line. Not hostile, just uncomfortable. She said she understood and asked if I wanted that noted on the account. I said yes. Then I asked her to send me written confirmation. After that, I did the same thing with the caterer, then the florist, then the photographer. I kept each message short and polite. No accusations, no family history, no emotional explanation. Just facts. I had made one payment. I had not authorized future charges. My card could not be used without my direct consent. By lunchtime, 3 vendors had replied. By late afternoon, the venue had confirmed that my name would not be attached to the remaining balance. That email sat on my screen for a long time. I did not feel powerful reading it. I felt sad. Because protecting myself from strangers was easy. Protecting myself from my own family felt like betrayal, even when I was the one being cornered. That evening, I called my bank and replaced the card connected to the deposit. The representative asked whether it was fraud. I hesitated, then said there had been unauthorized attempts related to a family event, and I wanted to prevent further charges. It was the most honest way I could say it without hearing myself say something worse. The new card would take a few days. The old one was closed immediately. I did not tell my mother. I knew exactly what would happen if I did. She would say I had embarrassed her. Marable would cry. My father would tell me I was creating problems right before the wedding. Somehow, the conversation would stop being about my card and become about my attitude. So I stayed quiet. The day of my flight, I still packed the gift. That is the part people may not understand. Even after all that, I did not go there wanting war. I wanted to attend, sit in seat 7, smile for photos if they asked, and get through the day without giving anyone a reason to say I had ruined it. I wore the dress Marable had approved. I carried the invitation in my purse. I kept my passport in the front pocket of my bag, where I could reach it easily through every connection. 19 hours gives you too much time to think. On the first flight, I thought about the venue email. On the second, I thought about my mother's blue handwriting. During the layover, I checked the family group chat. There were photos of flowers arriving, cousins in makeup chairs, my mother posing beside Marable with her hand on the veil. No one asked if I had landed. No one asked if I needed a ride. When I finally arrived, I changed in the hotel bathroom because there was no time to rest. I brushed my hair, fixed my makeup under harsh lighting, and told myself I looked fine. Tired, but fine. The gift looked small in my hands. The venue was beautiful from the outside. White flowers, glass doors, warm lights. For 1 second, despite everything, I felt my chest loosen. Maybe I had been wrong. Maybe stress had made everyone strange. Maybe once I walked inside, my mother would soften, my father would nod, and Marable would be too happy to care about old tensions. At the check-in table, a young staff member smiled and asked for my name. I said it clearly. Clarissa Minda. She looked down at the printed list. Her smile changed. Not disappeared exactly, just tightened. She checked another page, then another. I saw her finger move down the columns, guest names, table numbers, meal choices. She did not find me. Behind her, on one of the marked seating sheets, I saw the family table. My eyes moved before I could stop them. Seat 7 was there. But my name was not. There was a line through a name space beside it, dark enough to show it had been changed after printing. Before I could ask anything, my mother appeared. Evelyn stepped between me and the table like she had been called over for something unpleasant, but expected. My father came with her. His face was set, already decided. That was when I understood. This had not been confusion. This had been arranged. I lifted the invitation, the same cream paper that had crossed oceans with me. My mother looked at it like it was evidence she wished I had not brought. My father did not reach for it. "You're not invited," he said. The words were quiet enough that not everyone heard, but the staff member did. A couple near the entrance glanced over and then looked away too quickly. I felt heat rise behind my eyes, but I did not let it fall. I asked one thing, not loudly, not dramatically, just enough for them to answer. My mother's mouth tightened. "Only family belongs here," she said. "Leave." There are moments when pain is so direct, it almost becomes clear. I looked at my father. He would not meet my eyes. Past them, I could hear the wedding continuing without me. Music, laughter, Marable's world protected on the other side of the doorway. I thought about the emails in my folder. The canceled card. The venue confirmation. The way my mother had asked about my credit limit before asking about my flight. Then I lowered the invitation. I did not beg. I did not ask for Marable. I did not give them a scene they could describe later as proof that I was unstable or jealous or difficult. I turned around with the gift still in my hand and walked back toward the driveway. Behind me, no one called my name. And they had no idea that, when they closed that door on me, they had just closed it on the one person they were still counting on to pay for what was inside. I walked until the music softened behind me. At the edge of the driveway, I stopped beside a row of parked cars and looked down at the gift in my hand. The silver paper had a small dent in one corner from where my fingers had pressed too hard. I stood there for a few seconds, not knowing what to do with it. Then I put it back in my bag. Not because I wanted to keep it. Because I could not bear to leave one more thing at a door that had already refused me. The next 3 days were strange and quiet. I stayed in the hotel room more than I should have. I ordered food I barely tasted. I kept the curtains half open and watched strangers pass below like they all knew where they belonged. My phone lit up often, but not with apologies. At first, it was distant cousins asking careful questions. Did you leave early? Were you feeling okay? I thought I saw you outside. No one said the whole thing directly. People almost never do at first. They circle around the truth until someone else names it. I did not explain much. I said I was fine. I said I needed rest. I did not tell anyone about the guest list or seat 7 or the way my father would not look at me. By the 3rd day, the messages changed. My mother called twice in the morning. Then my father. Then Marable. I watched the screen light up and go dark each time. My body reacted before my mind did. That old pull came back, the one that said something is wrong, pick up, fix it, make it easier before everyone gets angry. But this time I waited. When my mother called again that afternoon, I answered. She did not ask how I was. She did not mention the entrance. She did not say my name softly, like a mother who knew she had hurt her daughter. She sounded breathless. Clarissa, she said, the venue says the final balance is still open. I sat on the edge of the hotel bed and looked at the invitation lying on the desk. How much? I asked, even though some part of me already knew it would be bad. $41,000. There it was. The number from the call I told you about. She rushed through the rest. Service charges, bar extension, extra guests, daycare fees, final catering balance, something about penalties if payment was delayed. Her words tumbled over each other, but underneath them I heard the same expectation I had heard my whole life. Clarissa will handle it. Then she said, we need you, this is family. I closed my eyes. For 1 second I was back at the venue door. White flowers, warm lights, my gift in my hand. My father's face turned away. My mother's voice saying only family belongs here. That memory did not break me. It steadied me. No, I said. My mother went silent, like she had not understood the word. I kept my voice calm. I'm not paying it. Clarissa, don't do this now. I'm not doing anything now, I said. I already clarified with the venue and the vendors before the wedding. I'm not a guarantor. I'm not a co-host. I'm not responsible for any remaining balance. Another silence. This one was different. This one had fear in it. She said my name again, lower this time, like a warning. I looked at the invitation, at the blue ink, at the promise that had carried me across the world. Then I gave her the answer that left her speechless. You told me only family belonged there, so you cannot ask me to pay as family for a wedding I was not allowed to enter. She did not respond. There was no argument she could make that did not expose the truth. A few minutes later, after the call ended, I forwarded the venue confirmation again. Not to punish her, not to start a fight, just to make the boundary impossible to blur. What happened after that was not dramatic in the way people imagine. No one was arrested. No one was ruined overnight. There was no public speech, no viral post, no grand revenge. There was just reality. My parents had to arrange a payment plan. My father began talking about selling their second vehicle. A relative messaged me 2 days later asking, very carefully, whether it was true I had flown in and been turned away. Marable's perfect wedding photos still went online, but the comments underneath them felt thinner than they were supposed to. People knew enough to start wondering. That was the consequence they could not control. Not the bill itself. The story. On the morning of my return flight, I sat alone in a small airport cafe with a paper cup of coffee and a receipt for the only meal on that trip anyone had paid for without expecting something back. The invitation was folded beside it. For the first time, I looked closely at the inside again. Family table, seat 7. The blue ink was still there, but now I could see where another mark had pressed through faintly, like something had been written over, crossed out, corrected. I turned the invitation over. On the back, I wrote one sentence. I am not an emergency contact for people who erased me. Then I placed my passport on top of it for a moment. Not angrily, not dramatically. Just enough to feel the weight of one life covering another. When my flight was called, I picked up the passport. I left the invitation on the table. And as I walked toward the gate, I did not feel victorious. I felt tired, sad, lighter than I had in years. Because being needed had never meant being loved. And for the first time, I stopped confusing the two.